Hi there. I'm going to walk us through a materiality assessment on TD Bank. I'll offer a summary of the findings and guidance on how to view these slides. There's more information in a detailed article linked in the description, as well as a link to this slide deck itself. I provide a letter to TD Bank explaining my intention, which is to foster the transition to an economy that generates healing across all industries. I'm not trying to stick it to the man. I'm trying to highlight real concerns and offer ideas for transformative improvement. And what is found here could really be said of most of the major banks. I chose TD Bank because I'm a customer and because I've never worked with TD in an ESG capacity, whereas I have with some of TD's peers. So let's have a look. I've got an interactive table of contents here. I'll take us straight to the business model highlights. I'd like to look at what a company says its purpose is in relation to what it does. So in TD's case, they are here to enrich the lives of customers, communities, and colleagues. And they have nearly $2 trillion in assets. So that's a lot of possible enriching. When we look at their ESG disclosures, we see, as with most of their peers, a lot of sort of shiny, rosy documents, quite a bit of cherry picking in the way issues are discussed. For example, executive compensation, which is disclosed as an issue. There's not a lot of information about how they're addressing it. And when I did a little digging on the side, I see the CEO's income is totally out of touch with customers and communities and colleagues. And in the words of one stakeholder who was a trader for 24 years with TD, the top 2,000 people at the company, including himself, are grossly overpaid. Let's look at a deeper question about really what does the company do with that $1.8 trillion? And unfortunately, the answer is, although they finance a lot of nice things, they also finance extinction, which fuels inequality. Oil and gas pipeline finance has essentially doubled over 10 years. Mining finance is up. And even so-called green energy, there are serious issues with this that are essentially glossed over. It's hard to pin down exact numbers, but there are some very real concerns. Another issue that came up was with regard to Indigenous peoples. In spite of 71 mentions of the word Indigenous in the most recent ESG report, they lumped them in as a topic in diversity and inclusion, along with Blacks, minorities, and the LGBTQ community. This is better than complete erasure, but it misses the point. From a wider societal lens and a financial lens, reconciling with First Nations is more than stopping genocide, ethnocide, and exclusion, though those things need to stop. It is about understanding the current dominant corporate worldview that perpetuates harm and that got us into this mess. It is about recognizing the need for transformation from top-down control towards interconnectedness, what Indigenous cultures have modeled for millennia. Let's go back to the convoluted disclosures for a moment. It was a really frustrating element to this assessment. ESG disclosures tout billions of dollars in low carbon economy investment, but when I compare with the annual report, it's disjointed. How much of wholesale banking finances pipelines, oil and gas? I could only make ballpark guesses based on disparate documents that I manually tabulated. And the largest chunk financed by wholesale banking is the financial industry, which is confusing as a data point. I spoke with diverse stakeholders and I highlight their views of a beautiful future, some of their suggestions for TD's leadership, and I offer a way to see the full conversations transparently, the videos, audio, and transcripts with a range of stakeholders from an economist to a Mohawk farmer. And I continue to engage non-human stakeholders in an effort to understand that perspective. What I and other stakeholders think is interesting, but I also think it's important to know about the conversation with the C-suite and investors. So I tease out some of the more concerning quotes from earnings calls. Lots of mixed messages. At best, it's about being less bad. In sum, this assessment highlights gaps and ideas to close them. For instance, to only finance activities that restore ecosystems, biodiversity, and human health, to embrace a worldview of connectedness with Mother Earth, to provide simple, plain English disclosures, and to pay all employees fairly, reasonably, and within a publicly governed structure. I realize that proposing a major bank transform along with the whole industry is daunting. I think standing back and watching the current trajectory play out is even more daunting. I welcome your feedback. Thank you.